General Omar Bradley's decision to fire Terry Allen, one of America's most feared and decorated night fighter commanders, wasn't just a simple personnel move. It was a decision loaded with tension, personality conflicts, and the high-stakes pressures of a world at war. Allen was not your typical officer. His reputation for daring, unconventional tactics and relentless aggression had earned him respect and fear in equal measure. Allied troops on the front lines knew that if Allen was leading an operation, the enemy would pay a heavy price. Yet, despite his battlefield success and the loyalty of his men, Bradley relieved him of command. A move that sent shockwaves through the military hierarchy and cemented Allen's reputation for holding grudges and seeking revenge. To understand why this happened, we need to look beyond ranks, medals, and mission reports and into the human side of command, where pride, personality, and philosophy collide with the raw realities of combat. Terry Allen had always been a soldier who operated on instinct as much as training. He didn't just follow orders. He interpreted them, adapted them, and often reshaped them to fit the battlefield as he saw it. This made him exceptionally effective in night operations, where split-second decisions could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. Under his command, his units excelled, often achieving objectives that seemed impossible to other commanders. His reputation wasn't built on luck. It was forged in countless missions where his judgment, daring, and ability to push men beyond conventional limits consistently delivered results. In the night skies, where danger lurked in every shadow, Allen thrived, and so did the men under him. They trusted him implicitly, not just as a commander, but as someone who would do whatever it took to win and keep them alive. However, this same fearless independence that made Allen effective on the battlefield also put him at odds with formal military structure. Omar Bradley, though known for his calm and methodical approach, believed in discipline, predictability, and adherence to established protocol. He understood that while improvisation could yield results in isolated situations, it also carried significant risks. Risks that could cascade through units, jeopardizing entire operations. Bradley's philosophy was that war was won not only by bravery, but by consistency, coordination, and the careful orchestration of every element on the battlefield. For him, Allen's methods, as brilliant as they often were, represented a gamble that the broader war effort could not always afford. The friction between the two men escalated as Allen's successes continued to draw attention. He gained a reputation not just as a skilled tactician, but as someone who often disregarded rules in pursuit of results. Reports filtered back to headquarters highlighting his deviations from standard procedure, sometimes exaggerating or bending orders to fit his aggressive plans. For officers like Bradley, who were responsible for the bigger picture and the overall strategy, these deviations were more than just annoyances. They were potential threats. They undermined the chain of command, challenged authority, and created uncertainty about what might happen next, especially in a war where coordination and timing were everything. What Bradley saw as risk and insubordination, Allen and his men saw as initiative and effectiveness. In night combat, flexibility and audacity were essential. Operations rarely went according to plan. Conditions changed in seconds, and rigid adherence to doctrine could be fatal. Allen's style, which allowed him to adjust plans on the fly and exploit fleeting opportunities, was perfectly suited to these circumstances. His men thrived under his leadership because they knew he would make decisions quickly, decisively, and in ways that maximized their chances of success while minimizing unnecessary exposure. But to Bradley, who had to balance countless moving parts across the broader theater of operations, Allen's improvisation appeared reckless and unsustainable. The tension came to a head when Bradley had to make a choice: tolerate Allen's methods because they produced results, or assert command authority to maintain order and control. In the military, results are always important, but so is the perception that rules are followed and authority is respected. Bradley was acutely aware that tolerating Allen's disregard for protocol could set a dangerous precedent. Other officers might feel empowered to bend rules or take unnecessary risks, potentially jeopardizing the larger strategy. In his mind, the long-term cost of allowing one man to operate outside established procedures outweighed the immediate benefits of Allen's successes, no matter how spectacular. Relieving Terry Allen of command was not an easy decision, but it was one that Bradley believed necessary for the health of the army as a whole. When Allen was informed, reactions were intense. He was incredulous, frustrated, and deeply insulted. To Allen, His removal was less about orders and more about a lack of understanding from a superior who didn't appreciate the nuances of night combat. He saw it as a personal affront, a challenge to his reputation, and a denial of the very methods that had made him effective. For a man whose identity was intertwined with his tactical skill and command style, this was intolerable. It was not just a professional setback. It was a deeply personal insult that demanded a response in his own terms. Allen's reaction to his firing was equally revealing. Far from retreating quietly, he began plotting ways to assert his influence and settle scores, earning the nickname for his revenge approach in military circles. He understood that power in war isn't just about rank. It's about reputation, relationships, and the ability to influence outcomes even outside formal command. His response wasn't reckless retaliation. It was calculated, a means to preserve his legacy and remind colleagues and superiors alike of his value on the battlefield. It demonstrated how personal pride and the culture of honor among soldiers could intersect with strategic decision-making in ways that affected both morale and operational effectiveness. This clash between Bradley and Allen highlights a fundamental tension in warfare: the balance between individual initiative and centralized command. Allen's methods underscore the importance of adaptability, daring, and leadership by example in high-risk operations. Bradley's decision, on the other hand, illustrates the necessity of control, consistency, and strategic oversight when managing a complex, multi-front war. Neither perspective is inherently wrong. Both are essential. But when they collide, the results can be dramatic, shaping careers, reputations, and even the outcomes of operations. The story also serves as a lens through which we can examine the human side of military leadership. War is not just a series of tactics and engagements. It is a web of personalities, egos, and interpersonal dynamics. Decisions like firing a celebrated commander are never purely about performance metrics. They are about authority, trust, cohesion, and the delicate balance of risk and reward. Allen's removal by Bradley reveals how these intangible factors can influence not only the conduct of war, but the lives and careers of the men involved. In the end, Bradley's decision to fire Terry Allen was a defining moment, not just for the individuals involved, but for the broader military culture. It underscored the tension between brilliance and discipline, results and procedure, independence and hierarchy. Allen's subsequent actions, fueled by pride and a desire for retribution, cemented his legacy as a commander whose influence extended far beyond the battlefield. It reminds us that in war, decisions are rarely black and white, and that personal dynamics, leadership philosophy, and the pressures of command often shape outcomes as much as strategy or firepower. Through this lens, the firing of Terry Allen becomes more than a single personnel decision. It is a study in leadership, human nature, and the harsh realities of command under the relentless pressure of war. It is a story of pride, revenge, and the collision of two very different approaches to leadership, each shaped by the unforgiving environment of World War II combat. And in understanding this moment, we gain insight not only into the men involved, but into the complex forces that shape the course of history itself.